Hello, welcome back to Blender Live Noding. In this episode, we're gonna do something pretty simple. Basically, looking at how we can use Sverchok Add-On to access the motion path data of an object. Yeah, so just let's get started. So basically, an object by default doesn't have motion path data by default. You need to have some kind of animations in order to do it, and then you kind of need to go to this object panel and then scroll down and then calculate the motion path data. So I'll show you real quick. Create a simple keyframe animation. I tap I and then keyframe the locations. You can see the keyframe on the location there, and I just go to like around frame 100 and then just keyframe once again there, and we can see that kind of linear animation. And I can now calculate the motion path, just calculate it between 1 and 250, and then now we have the motion path there. You can see for animators, you can see that there's a spacing representing every frame, kind of baked animations. You can see there's a ease in and ease out in between, and then let's say I'm changing the animation here for the objects, just adding more keyframe and update the path. We have the motion path data being updated. Normally this is useful if you have like a character rig animations and you have the controllers and you want to see the arc of the motion. Yeah, and I believe there's a Python script for Blender that can kind of convert this motion path into curve if you like, but I like to do it using Sverchok now. I'll show you how. This is basically kind of my explorations of how we can access the animation data of an object. Currently, Sverchok probably doesn't have many nodes for it. Hopefully, maybe one day we have nodes that's dealing with animations. I'm gonna save this real quick. Motion path. Okay, so we have 4 keyframes and we have this motion path data that we can access using Sverchok now. Just go to Sverchok node 3 and then it's basically super simple. You just go to selector, use object ID selector, select our object, and then use objects ID set, and we're gonna have 3 of them. First of all, we're gonna access the motion path data. So this is the object goes in there, and we have the motion path data. You can always check it using the stethoscope and see where you are. See, this is bpy.data.objects motion path data. With motion path, we actually have points attribute, I believe. So if it's giving you an error, maybe you type it wrongly. So it needs actually to have points, and points give you access to every single points. But what you want is kind of like a list, so you just give this kind of symbols there. Now you have the list of every points, and for every motion path points, we want to find out the coordinates. So plug that in and look at the output. This is all the vector, right? In order to turn the vector into a list that Sverchok understand, you use that symbol once again. So now we have the coordinates for every point of the motion path. And once you have that, you can simply go to use something like a viewer draw and just plug that in. Now we have all the points inside Sverchok, which is yeah, very cool, very easy to do, and you can do things like randomize the points if you like, but we don't want to do that yet. You can use the UV connections, of course, as usual, and get the edges. See, now if we bake it, we actually have the curve. This curve is based on the motion path of the objects. So yeah, this actually that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. I really like working with nodes because it's kind of I think save my brain processing. Everything is visual and I can always change it and go back. You can actually access the things like this using Python, of course. With Python you can kind of dig deeper, and you can do like a lot of neat thing, but you need to understand programming. So that's of course that's a different workflow. Say let's say we want to access the points data here. I want to try digging it a little bit with Python. So we know that we can access the objects this way. So that's our objects data, the cube, for example, bpy.data.objects, and the name of the objects. We can dig it like this. So object have a motion path data block that we can access, and this motion path, of course, have points, and points we can see there's points, and then if we use this we get the list, but we don't want to do that. We want to access the one of the points, for example, and the coordinates, and have a look. See, there's coordinate has the XYZ data. That's why it has index 0, index 1, and index 2. That's actually the XYZ. That's the thing that Sverchok is accessing. And for if you are using Python and want to access every single points, you probably need to do this for every point in object motion path points, just to print point.coordinate. I think this is how you do it. There you go. That's how you access it, just like in here using nodes. Anyway, once you know that you can access it using nodes or using Python, now the next thing you want to do is what you can do with it. You can always turn the motion path into real objects like this. You have the UV connection doing it, and you can also use polyline viewer. This one will turn it into curve. You can actually resample it. You can do a lot basically that you normally don't think is possible. And this is still live, so if we change the data, the animation data here, let's say we turn the objects this way and then keyframe and then update the motion path, Sverchok will update as well. So you can see the motion path as a real mesh data that you can render. So that can be useful. Yeah, I'm not gonna do too much about it, but one more thing I want to show you that. So currently, if you look at the points, this is like all the points for every single frame that's already baked for the motion path. Let's say you want to slice you don't want all the points, you just want a little bit. You can use something like list split, I believe, and you split the data. Let's say you split every 10, and then you use the list first and last. You see, these two nodes can give you just the data points that you need. We actually just put it before, I think. So this is the data goes in there, first, last. You split the data as you need, and then now we only have like a few points. See, we can adjust the data. If you want to find the middle point, you can do that as well, something like that. So it's, yeah, a lot of potential here. Yeah, you can actually find the middle points, you can find the last points, and so on. Well, anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's a quick look at the motion path. Actually, this is one of my early explorations of animation data for objects using Sverchok. For animation, actually, for things like keyframe, I'll try to dig into it. I don't know how much we can go inside, but with the animation data, it's slightly different. You have the data for each keyframe as this XY value. For every single attribute or props, you actually have this data that make up the curve, like the interpolation value, and then at which which frame we have what value. So it's a slightly different data. You don't just convert that into Sverchok unless if we can grab the curve. I'm pretty happy with that, the curve, and then kind of make modifications and kind of push the. But I think converting just the graph curve in the 2D graph is not so useful. Would be nice is to access every single curve and then kind of offset it slightly. I think that's something that I hope I can do using Sverchok. If not, animation nodes should be able to do this at some point. We will see, but I think a lot of potential here, basically. So with Sverchok, you can access the motion path data very, very easily. And this actually works for multiple objects. If you have multiple objects, this will work right away. Just change the objects. Okay, so hopefully this is useful. Let me know what you think in the feedbacks comment section below. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.